Confident are you that Kansas City can fix their offensive issues?
Not confident at all.
Not confident?
Not unless scheme becomes a altered thing, a changed thing. Okay. What would give me confidence? Patrick? That's it. That's the only thing right now that they're doing well. I would argue that Travis has actually played pretty well. I know everyone's like, oh my gosh, they're dropping the end zone, blah, blah, blah. I think Travis has done good things. Other than that, the offensive line is poor. So, is that just going to get fixed? No. Even Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey, who have been very good players, they're not playing up to their standard level. The receivers aren't getting open. I know the receivers that are going to get healthy or back from suspension are going to be different, but when does that actually happen? And that necessarily wasn't a dominant thing when it was going on. The tight ends can't block in the run game. The backs are struggling with their vision. They're losing at the point of attack. Patrick leads the team in rushing. Patrick leads the NFL in quarterbacks running. Patrick had 88% of their offense against the Chargers and 81% of their offense against the Eagles. So it's like he's the only one doing something. So at some point, there's going to have to be something that happens in this offense or someone that makes me go, all right, I see it. I can see that evolution being a trademark pillar of their offense. Through 2 weeks, I have not.
I just think it's a matter of guys getting back healthy. I mean, Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice, I think once they're back, a lot of that gets fixed. I'm looking at Kareem Hunt and Pacheco averaging only 3.3 yards a carry.
So you think that's going to change with?
But I think that when you have threats, to throw the football to, and that opens things up, and that could also free up your running game a little bit. That's just my thing.
Well, I think there does need to be a change in philosophy as this team is constructed right now. But part of this team's construction is Xavier Worthy being injured. Part of this team's construction is Rashee Rice being suspended. And I think when those things do happen, when they do get back on the field, this becomes a different team. But to Dan's point, Matt Nagy and Andy Reid, two of the smartest coaches doing their particular jobs, have to figure out a way to take some of this off of Patrick's shoulders. Now, when you watch the film, which I know Dan does and I do, you say, okay, Patrick, if you hit Tyquan Thornton down the sideline against the Chargers early in that game, that's a big play. That's a touchdown.
Sure.
Right? If you can hit him on a post corner late in the game against the Philadelphia Eagles, then that's a touchdown. And so there have been some plays that I feel like Patrick Mahomes himself, who I am not saying by any means needs to do more than what he's doing, has missed, right? He hasn't been up to the standard. And so for me, there are pieces there. And when you add those other people, that's the thing that gives me confidence it could get fixed, Dan. I'm not saying that there aren't these glaring deficiencies in the Kansas City Chiefs, especially compared to what they used to be, but there's an ability to fix it.
Asking both of y'all this question. How much, in terms of your trepidation about Kansas City, how much does last year factor into play? I'm not talking about the Super Bowl. I'm talking about all those one-possession victories that they had. What about those?
Very much so. It's very much so in my mind because, and it's not necessarily like the one possession victories, it's just stylistically how it looked. Just from like the deep football conversation, there's things that the offenses in football are doing well right now that are common. And then there's things that the offenses that are struggling in the NFL right now are doing that are common. And the Chiefs right now offensively fall on the ones that are struggling. I still think there's too much gun. I still don't believe that there's enough under center play action passes. And so I still don't believe that they play with enough tight ends that are in the run game. And so that absolutely factors in. And that's why everyone who continues, and I'm trying to be respectful here, that to say once Rashee and Holly or Xavier Worthy are back, it's going to make a difference. Rashee was a possession guy last year. He was get him the ball and do yards after the catch. So will that help? Yes. But is that really jumping to what the Chargers are wanting to do on offense, or what the Bills can do on offense, or what the Ravens can do on offense? God bless, no. And then Xavier Worthy, he averaged 10 yards a catch last year. It wasn't like he was going for 18 a catch and, oh my gosh, now we're expanding a defense. And so while he was a good player last year and hopefully taking a step forward, you're not fixing an offense that has deficiencies on your offensive line. I don't care if you bring Randy Moss. In the NFL, if you have an offensive line that is struggling both to block people in the run and the pass game, you're not fixing it with perimeter players. That's not how football works.
Right.
I agree with that to a point, right? Because there's also something that has to do with winning, right? Rashee Rice was able to win. And if you think about who he was down the stretch of his rookie season, he became that guy. He became the bunch guy, get him the low crosser, right? He became the dig guy on condensed splits, zombie routes where you're running the post behind him. And now you add Xavier Worthy to that. Now you have Xavier Worthy, you have Hollywood Brown, and you have Rashee Rice.
Okay.
There's a different sort of defense you have to play. We watched the pressure of the Philadelphia Eagles amp up and amp up and amp up as the game went along because they realized there was no one who could win out there, right? We saw the safeties draw closer to the line. And so in my mind, it's this. And there is trepidation for this reason. It's hard to deconstruct while within success. It's hard to say while we're continuing to win, while we're continuing to find ourselves in Super Bowls, let's pull back from being inside of it and pick apart how to be better.
What do y'all make of the fact that I'm assuming that based on everything y'all saying, that explains why Patrick Mahomes is scrambling twice as much now thus far than he did last season. I'm talking about in terms of the rate of the scrambles. It's more than twice the amount of times he averaged last year. Is this why? Is this what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, he's getting pressure and no one's open. So I mean, there was a point in the game, the Eagles game last week where I was watching him play and I'm like, he is literally going to just take the game over and just run through people.
But that's why I bring up Worthy and Rice and what have you, because with Worthy, with Rice, with Travis Kelce, you haven't had these cats, or Hollywood Brown, let me not forget him. You haven't had these cats, even though they've been on a squad together since 2024. They haven't played one game together yet because there's always been an injury.
And I'm with you, but this is the Chiefs. So, like, if we're asking the question, do you have trepidation or concern? Can they get back on track for what? Are we talking getting back on track to getting back into the division race or being a playoff contending football team or winning a Super Bowl?
Let me go to RC with this one. Can't believe I'm asking this question, but is KC possibly on upset alert against the Giants this week?
Absolutely.
Upset alert against the Giants?
Absolutely. The Kansas City Chiefs aren't the Kansas City Chiefs that we used to know. And while I think they can fix some of their problems, you just listen to Dan tell you that they have issues blocking.
Yeah.
This is a tough team to block.
Yeah.
This is the team that could put pressure on the quarterback, especially when you get them in sub package, and now Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau, Sexy Dexy, and Brian Burns are on the front line. And where they struggle and where we watched them struggle against Dallas was covering on the back end. You ain't got guys to cover.
Yeah.
And so I do believe that this team can cause them trouble, and especially with the way Spags has now have to bring pressure, and I've seen him play more zero in the first 2 weeks of this season than we've seen in the last 3 years.
If they come after Russell Wilson with this zero blitz that he's talking about where everyone's playing man coverage and going after the quarterback, if they go after Russ in a similar fashion, Russ can still throw the rock downfield now.
And Davis Robinson could go get it.
They don't have anybody who can cover Malik. So it's not an outrageous thought to sit there and be like, it could strike. I don't think they lose the game, but that's only because of
they're 0-2, and I can't imagine them falling 0-3.
Yeah, now listen, I'm not going to pick the New York Giants, but this isn't one of those things where we get to say every stadium that the Kansas City Chiefs walk into, they're a huge
You're not going to be shocked.
No, I won't.
You're going to be like,
we sit here on Monday, if I'm watching Dan Monday morning, and he's like, here's the plays that lost this game for the Kansas City Chiefs, I would not be surprised.
I'll tell you what shocked me. RC's on national television calling somebody Sexy Dexy. I mean, what's up with that?
That's Sexy Dexy.